Hi everybody! Now we are coming to the end of our podcast series. So we have listened to all the different podcasts, and I'm wondering if you have noticed a particular pattern in the way the leverage points occur.
Actually, I'm wondering why nobody in the end named the leverage point 9, the length of delays relative to the rate of system change.
Well, my assumption is that it is difficult to find delays in a system. And even if you find them, it can be difficult because if you change them, you will see the outcome again only after a certain delay. So I feel it is a leverage point that is often overlooked as it is not that easy to grasp.
That is true. In contrast, leverage point 2, paradigm shift, and 5, rules were named most frequently. And even the leverage points between 2 and 5 were named a lot. So why do you think these points were used so many times?
Let me recall the points 2 to 5. The shift of a paradigm, goals of a system, self-organization, and then it was rules, yes. I believe this strong focus is because we are dealing with very complex systems that need deep levels of change. In the end, I feel our fellow students did reflect very well and show their selected cases that the root causes must be tackled. And this cannot be done with only changing parameters, point 12, or buffers, point 11. Those can be changed easily, but the impact will not be that high. But did somebody actually choose the most powerful leverage point 1?
Ah yes, I remember 2 people actually mentioning the leverage point transcending paradigms. This is interesting as it is the most difficult leverage point to tackle, but with the highest effectiveness, as you just said. The podcast episodes connected to this leverage point were both about inner change and therefore also behavior change, which itself might be the only option to really transcend a system.
Yeah, that is interesting. So if we now apply the scientific approach to our podcast series to the fact that we changed a system from a written compendium to an audio format, what do you think which leverage points are touched by the system change?
Well, it could be connected to leverage point 6, information flow, as the way knowledge is spread changes when being able to broadcast something on the internet. In this way, people can listen to it without having the barrier of downloading a written compendium and reading it. Like this, we made the compendium accessible to a broader audience that might even by chance listen to the podcast. Besides, through the audio sensation, information and learning will be experienced in a totally different way. As we also said in our intro, the possibility of listening to the podcast wherever you want makes it easier and more fun to get in contact with the topics.
And I wanted to add that the repeated sounds for the leverage points should help our listeners to have a better connection to these 12 points and give our podcast a recognition factor even in the long term.
Okay, so do you feel that there are maybe even more leverage points in this podcast?
Yes, definitely. We hope to shift the paradigm of our listeners with this podcast. So, leverage point 2. We would like to give our listeners hope and the tools to intervene in systems. Our motivation to create this podcast is to make them capable of system thinking and maybe later apply it to the ones that they are part of.
This would be actually the perfect ending to our podcast series, but we still need to say some thank yous to all our fellow GCMEs for their wonderful, insightful episodes and Meet for making it possible to record with professional studio equipment, especially to Anja and Frank. Thank you. And additionally, Jana for designing the leverage point symbols, and to all external contributors, interviewees, and of course to our Professor Martin Welp for giving us the freedom to create this new format. Thank you.
All these peoples are part of our podcast system, and as Meadows clearly recognizes, quote, "We can't control systems or figure them out, but we can dance with them."
So thank you very much to our listeners for dancing with us.